Aloha, everyone. It's time for the 2-week grab bag. There's just so much news, topics, and changes in the AI sphere that we can't hope to cover it all. So every couple of weeks, the DAS team takes all of the bits and ends, fries them up with some veggies and sesame oil, and Bob's your uncle, you've got yourself an AI stir fry. So in the immortal words of the Cromulons from Rick and Morty, show me what you got. It's June 12th, 2025, episode 484. Today I am joined by Brian and hopefully the rest of the team. And I am Jimmy. This is the Daily AI Show. Thank you everyone for joining the live stream and for all of you who watch later. If you haven't already, click the bell, like, subscribe, and join the discussion at thedailyAIshow.com. Okay, so let's start this off. So Brian, show me what you got.
I think the biggest thing for me, and it just came out yesterday, I guess the 12th. Yeah, today's the 13th. Hey, today's Friday the 13th. I just realized that. The big news for me was that custom GPTs can now have you can change the models on them. Two actual ways, which I think are both equally interesting. So in a custom GPT, if you built them in the back end, you are always stuck to just the 4.0, which was fine, or whatever the prevailing model was at the time, right? It was just like that's what you got, which is tough from a creator standpoint because now, especially nowadays, we know how valuable O3 can be in some cases, but even just 4.1, O4 mini, for us that dabble in this stuff, I play around with the models all the time. So as a creator of the custom GPT, first things first, it's actually really cool for me to decide what the default model is going to be. I have plenty of GPTs that are definitely more uh, based in doing deep research of a company, especially from the sales side. So obviously O3 could be a better option there, but maybe not. Maybe I want to do O4 mini because I'm going to get a little bit of that deep research, but I'm going to get a little bit of speed. And so as the creator, I love that I have this flexibility. Now, equally as important is that even though I set the model from the creator side, that does not restrict the user now from changing models for that GPT. And that didn't exist before. So now what you're able to do is, even if I do set the default as 4.0, well, now what I want to do is put a heads up. I've been starting to add these today into the GPTs that comes up at the very top of the starting process for the user that says, hey, we've set this to 4.0, but you might want to use O3 to do deeper research. Try it both ways. In that disclaimer, I'm also going to be adding something because I've been thinking about this, about memory and any sort of custom instructions. Because the one thing that has happened more than anything else, first of all, with language models, right, Jimmy, I can't predict. It's not coding. I can't predict the exact outcome, right? It's always a best guess for the user. So we've always had a product that was a bit unpredictable by design. However, it's getting more unpredictable and more personalized. So what that means is that I, as somebody who builds and sells and builds customized versions of these custom GPTs to clients, sales teams in my case, I have to be more and more clear and set expectations early to say, hey, your experience may differ. And there's nothing I can actually do about it. I can educate you, I can inform you, I can tell you what I think the best use cases are. I can tell you what models I think you should use. But the reality is, if you and Beth, who just joined us, if Beth's settings and memories are set one way, and Jimmy, yours are different, and Beth uses O3 and you use 4.1 and I use 4.0, well, we're all using the same custom GPT, but we're all having three different experiences. That is something that I think is not just isolated in terms of AI for custom GPTs. This is something everybody who works in AI in the future is going to have to contend with if they aren't already, which is you're going to have more and more conversations with clients and people with AI products and services that says it's an LLM. And although we've instructed it to act a certain way and we've put these guardrails on it, it may not want to play that way that day. And it should not be a reflection on me as the builder that it maybe breaks for you. it's tricky, right? Because if I code something and I say, Jimmy, I built you or let's reverse this. You would build me the software. You have the knowledge for it. Jimmy, if you built me a software solution, you built me an app for whatever, we'll say firefighting. Why not? You built me a firefighting app, right? And I came back to you a week later and I said, Jimmy, this app is crap, man. It doesn't, first of all, it freezes on this screen and it doesn't do this. Well, I would have a good point to say, Jimmy, you didn't build me a stable app. It doesn't do what it's supposed to do. But if you built me a firefighter AI chatbot, much, much different scenario for me to come to you and say, Jimmy, on the third time I asked it about the science of, surround and drown, um, it said this thing, and you built me a bad app. And you'd say, I didn't build you a bad app. The LLM chose to give you that answer. And while we can both disagree with it, my answer is going to be refresh and start again, like back in the day. So I've talked a lot here, but I just wanted to it's more than, yes, I wanted to talk about these custom GPTs and be able to solve a model. But you know what? It's a bigger conversation than that because we all are going to have more and more conversations with clients that says, I can only take this so far, but I cannot guarantee a certain result for your team. And that's tricky. That's something I don't know that I would have to think maybe there's some sub industries where that's true, where the output is not a defined thing. I guess me consulting or, not consulting, like, uh, what would be a good example of that? If you brought me in as I've been rewatching Ted Lasso, if you brought me back in as like a team psychiatrist or psychologist, one of those 2, I guess I couldn't guarantee the output because of what my job would be, right? And it's I don't know, is there a better example than that? I don't know. I'll leave it
Um,
to you guys.
yeah, no, I get what you're saying because I'd say industries or categories or arenas, if you will, that deal with highly subjective outputs or returns or things like that. I think the Ted Lasso example is great because the teen psychologist is there to help the team members, right? Get it. They have to talk, discuss, analyze, why they are thinking a certain way or feeling a certain way and things like that. The end result is that they feel better, more healthy, and that helps them perform better, right? So a lot of athleticism and sports and things like that is all a mental game, right? Get yourself psyched up, focused, all those kinds of things. So I think that's a great example of if it's a subjective type of field that doesn't have hard data or hard math involved or a logic process necessarily or hard logic process that that I think is where AI is probably gonna fit the best in that use case because going in, "All right, I'm using this as a tool to tease out the result that I want.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to use it as a calculator necessarily," right? Though a lot of focus has been put on that in terms of because people expect a certain, accuracy and response and things like that just because they're just, transferring over from 30 years of being told how a computer works. A computer works exactly the way it was programmed. This computer doesn't. So so they have to learn that behavior.
I think yes, they do have to learn that behavior, and I think this is basically a bridge from the other training that we're doing with our clients who are using custom GPTs, right? You have to input the data that I have said you need to input in order to get the output that the custom GPT is for. Now, we just add on you have to input this data, very important that have all of that, and then, you need to use the model that we've tested it with, right? And you're welcome to test the model, like, you're welcome to go to O3 if you, as my client, have Pro, and I'm happy to have your feedback about that. But you've now run it in something that it's not designed for, right?
Mhm.
Like, you're welcome to run the Mac apps or the Windows apps in, like, whatever that, like, Windows environment on Mac
Yeah. Yeah, you're running Windows 95. That's not our fault.
Right?
Yeah.
We're not telling you, like, that's off brand, that's off instructions. That's essentially jailbroken. It's not quite that intense in this because you can always just run the query again in the model that it was recommended to you to run the query. But, Brian, yes, I think we're entering a situation with this where, the people who heard the instructions but didn't really grok the instructions, is gonna expand by, like, times 3, maybe times 5.
Yeah, and I want to pull up this comment from Greg. He's like, "Arg, arg." It's just to be clear on what he says. If one wants predetermined format, use a spreadsheet or an abacus or Loom. I get it, and I get what you're saying, Greg. And I think in this group, at least, we're all like, yeah, you know what? This is the way AI works. But I mean, Greg, we've talked back and forth enough. I know you probably agree, disagree in the chat if you like, or anybody else disagree with me here. That's not what clients come to us with. I'm not saying that won't change in time as more and more people get used to what they can expect or not expect. And to your point, Beth, here's the guardrails. Here's what we're saying works. If you go outside of that with a different model, if you have crazy memory set up on your one sales rep, experiences may vary, but it's not something that's obvious. At least in my experience, I do a lot of consulting work. I talk to a lot of teams with training. This is not something that has come across to me as obvious. It's obvious to us that that's how an LLM works. But Beth, how many
Right.
times have you said on this show, "Hey, pause. Remember, guys, it's a predictive engine. It's only trying to predict what the next token's words are in a sense." Because even we have gotten away from that in conversations, and you're always great about saying, "Pause. Let's remember what it does and what it's capable of doing." And although it may feel like magic at times, it's still just doing this until further notice, until somebody tells us they built something that's different wholeheartedly than an LLM, And so we can add on RAG and we can add on all these fun things, but it does not change the fundamental processing of the LLM, right?
Right. Absolutely. And also, these are not, these are more grown than coded, right? And so, like, I planted these seeds last year and I got these kinds of tomatoes. They're the exact same seed, and now you've given me a little more fertilizer, right? Some special magic fertilizer, and I plant it. Like, my tomatoes did completely different things. That's because the seed that I gave you is not the seed that you planted last year, right? Like, these are more like, it's more akin to, expectations for plants that you have planted than we got an update, and the new updated model is better, right? And it's gonna have all of the abilities that it had before, or at least know what the hell you're talking about. But that isn't how this works. Like, you did not get, you didn't add, the update that Microsoft just pushed so that now you can, do AI things in Paint, right? Like, that's not what this is. It is not bolted on, and I find that one of the hardest pieces to get across.
Yeah, me too. And look, I just want to make one final point, and I'm sure that we have other things to talk about on our grab bag show today. But two things there. One, well, let me get the first one first. On just to finish and wrap out the custom GPT announcement part of it. One of the things that's also benefit about it, because I think this is all net positive. It does create some complexities with communication to the clients and stuff as you're building them. But one thing I do love is in that Windows 95 example, what was scary as hell and bit me in the butt several times over the last 2 years was OpenAI would just without warning change the default model for the custom GPTs, and it broke GPTs several times on me. You would think better model, better performance. That is not the way it worked in the past. It would mess with my prompting, mostly because my then now older outdated prompting was a house of cards to work around the constraints of the model. I was just having this conversation yesterday with a different project called Journey, and all that is being built through the API. And one of the devs grabbed as he was supposed to, grab my prompting for GPTs and put it verbatim into the API. And I said, That's not the way to do it. Remember, my prompting is built around the constraints that I have found inside of custom GPT. So I say that to say one nice thing now is if they do that and they change the default model, which is still, to my knowledge, 4.0, I can go back and say, whoa, you just made 4.5 the default. I'm reverting back to 4.0 as the default to save my GPTs. And then over time, I can figure out how to make it work with 4.5 because the model might be right, but my prompting may be wrong now for that. So that was the one thing. And then also, just generally speaking, Beth, this is going to cause a lot of issues on the evaluation side of things. I'm going through an amazing course right now with Gemini that was recommended to me by the Gemini team. Go figure. But it's awesome. And one of the things they talk about very deep as you get into Agent Engine and Vertex is the evaluations phase of those models. And I think the more we add memory, the more we add personalization at scale, the more the variance of all the tree decision-making process will happen for each individual. So on the one side, the user gets more personalization and remembers more about you and everything else. From a developer side, from a builder side, it just becomes more and more and more complex, and almost to the point of, I'm not sure, build AI models to help evaluate AI models, but to get through all those decision tree branches and
Yeah.
test them, I don't know. I mean, other than to use AI to quite literally run thousands of iterations, which is probably the answer.
I think what we're gonna see is people building apps instead of custom GPTs. If OpenAI were smart, it would give us something inside it to be able to create an app kind of automation that we could share. Like you can publish and share artifacts, right? Or you can publish and share you can build it and run it in Canvas in Gemini. I don't know if you can share it and have other people do it, but I feel like that's the place where people are gonna go. I mean, if you give everybody a PWA, an app that they can run in their browser that just uses the API, they can't change the model, and neither can OpenAI to a certain extent. I mean, they can deprecate a model and then you have to figure it out, but it's on your timeline, not on theirs.
Yeah, I think you've hit it on the head there, Beth. I think the way that OpenAI, well, it seems to me that the way the OpenAI has looked at how they implement custom GPTs and how they implement the memory and whatnot, the personalization is the people who use ChatGPT are people who are looking to do their own thing. The people who are looking to build things, they're using the API, or may be the way they want to silo it. But I think that's the through line thought from their side of things, and that's you can't change it. The builder uses the API. You don't have to worry about personalization. You build it within the Chat GPT interface, then you're probably going to have to worry about it or anything that's like it. Okay, so
I One final thing I said yesterday, and I believe it is related to this. This canceled, in my experience, I don't know if anybody else is having this, but in my experience, this canceled the great feature where you could call another custom GPT into the conversation, and now you're talking to those instructions within the context of your previous conversation. It was a great addition. Brian's brilliance, I believe, means that you can, router solve this, which would be awesome, but,
You're saying
um,
it went away?
I it doesn't pop up for me.
hmm,
If I at a previous because I have a conversation about what the premise of a show might be, and then I call in the dossier writer. And based on that, the dossier gets written, and then I call in and maybe we tweak that back and forth, and then I call in the YouTube description writer, and that gets done, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, this is
oh wow,
I realistically, I need to copy and paste these things into new conversations, but this was
Mhm.
a great service.
Yeah.
This was a great thing that we could do that does not look like we can.
Well, I mean, I
It does,
agree.
What?
It does.
it does work for me.
Awesome.
Okay, good. I was about to say, I was about to go off. I was like, what are you talking about? That allows us to do like sub workflows and offload that processing to other yeah, okay. Yeah.
It's been non-functional for me for 3 days, so I have
Oh,
been warming up this rant.
okay. Yeah, no, I like that was a big uh-oh. That was just like I do the same thing. I mean, we ultimately tell our clients like again, it's sales research and stuff like that. So start with your general research, but then, get to the point where you're writing complete tailored outreach sequences through personalized email, right? And that would
Right.
be drilled down. So yeah, I was like, oh, I hope that didn't go away. I will say this, I did it very quickly, but I was able to add a different GPT and call it in to the conversation. So
Through a standard
All right.
Plus account,
Awesome.
whatever, all that.
I have a Plus account. I have it's in a Teams account right now. So that could perhaps be part of it. I don't know.
Oh no.
Anyway,
Okay. Cool. Well, Beth, show me what you got.
That's hilarious because what I got is I'm going to test what Brian's thing is in a window that I just opened for custom GPT.
it's like,
Um,
hold my beer. I got something to test really quick.
um,
This is too
uh,
important to me. This needs to be resolved.
so what I got is Midjourney release ish. Midjourney has a working video model. They are in the process of asking people to rate video generations, right? So you're not generating the video. Um, it is interesting, and it is I think it's what Midjourney said that they were gonna try to do. The whole time that they've been working on their video model, they've said, "We don't wanna do what everybody else is doing." Like, that's not a bad go use everybody else's stuff. Like, if you have a product you really like, but what they with their advantage with this is that their videos based on a Midjourney generated image can do things like turn it 360 or like do a zoom coming from something and then have it move, right? Which is a drone shot. And most times you take something from Midjourney to another model, it doesn't understand the worldview that was in it when the image was built. And Midjourney has also been working on worldview, so I think it's a pretty interesting thing. There are several instances of like the lady who's actually made of lace can turn 360 and it looks like all of her is made of lace in the way that made sense based on the first image. Like that kind of stuff. I think we're gonna see some really interesting stuff from that. They're not sure how they're going to price it, which I believe means it's not going to be included for very long in your original Midjourney subscription. But it's exciting.
So, okay, so I have a couple questions because anything that's in art generation is going to be piques my interest. Now, you said worldview. Now, are you talking about the context of how you got to the image? Is there more information there that you're not taking from that image into other tools? What is that information? Is it just the whole process of determining on branches that you got to it? That's providing worldview?
No.
Oh,
Um, I don't think so, although we haven't talked about Midjourney in a while. They have an iterative draft process where you can just quickly draft images. You can turn on voice mode and be like, "Nah, no, that's too red," right? Like, it's supposed to go back and forth with you.
mhm.
Um, so there is that. No, the worldview is supposed to be that it is taking into consideration everything that goes into the image um, as like a world scene, as a three-dimensional, like this is the worldview of the scene is my understanding.
Okay, so
The
there's
way that they release, I don't know if you've ever heard open office hours for Midjourney, the way they discuss this leaves some room for interpretation. And of course, they're not saying exactly what's happening. But as they've been working on building the video, they have also been working on building the worldview,
Okay, so it's not
like
part
that
of their
ability.
uh, it's not part of their narrative that, "Hey, when we build an image, we include things that aren't part of other, you know, GANs and other diffusion models and things like that." Um, but i but they're talking about it as if there's additional information or context that goes into forming the image. And because they have access to that, can inform how the video side of things are built.
No. They are talking about these things in separate conversations. These are the things we're working on. And I am seeing that their video feature that works better for their images than pulling their image into a different video feature is better. And I believe it's better because they have also been working on worldview, right? They don't they're self-funded. They don't
For sure.
they
So
don't
that
have
they
to
yeah,
say
they don't have
anything.
their
They don't
whole
have to tell us.
right.
Uh,
They have a unique way of releasing information. I was just
yeah.
trying to get a grip on where the worldview idea, comes from and if it translated into anything specific.
So they are simultaneously working on 3 things that have been for a while. An iterative 7.1 release, right? So they're gonna update the current model to something else. A video release, right? Like their video option and a 3D option. So these are all pieces that have been worked on over time, and they've been talking about video and 3D for a while. So that's what I'm inferring based on what it looks like you can do with the video.
Okay.
I think
Gotcha.
that's just a 3D understanding of it if you can spin it around, not close enough to be able to release to people that we can create our own 3D objects or something like that. But
Gotcha. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Well, how do we access the video right now? Is it just rating? It doesn't
yes.
allow you to generate, right?
Yep.
It's like we generated X, Y, and Z. Tell us how good X, Y, and Z is.
Right. And they have self said, "You're getting a lot of bad generations in this. This is what we're trying to do is build that kind of knowledge. Like, basically, we're giving you some really bad generations so that in the future, no one ever gets these kinds of really bad generations," right?
Get them
But
out of the way.
you can also see in it, like, wow, there are definitely some pieces that are gonna be that are, like, really interesting in the same way that, like, if you just want to generate photorealistic stock photo images, Midjourney is I mean, it can do it, but, like, probably you've chosen a different system to do that. Um, Midjourney can do some funky art things, and so will their video, ability.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Oh,
Brian, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, I do have something to share because it made me think of it when you were saying worldview. But also, can we also put a pin to come back to talk about the blog TikToks that have been coming out from
Oh,
historical figures
oh,
coming out
yes.
as an oracle video? But like, I don't know, which one do you want to talk about first? You want to talk about the vlogs first, or do you want to talk about what I have on my screen, which is just a pivot from the word world video?
okay. Let's talk about video.
Video. All right, go for it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sharing this on my screen so I don't like use double the resources here, but
And actually, we should pull up the vlogs, and I do not have them pulled up. Um,
you talk about it. You start explaining what it is in case people
okay.
haven't seen it, and then I will try to find some.
So it turns out that VO3 is really great at doing like first person vlog kind of videos. And as things happen on the internet, some stuff has caught fire. And that's why you're seeing a ton of stormtrooper vlog kind of content with them holding like they're presumably holding the phone like somewhere out and walking through something. That's why you're seeing Moses and Jesus and I don't know who else in the biblical characters are also Judas, are also, like, doing vlog kind of content, and this is, they like, the stormtrooper, everybody coming through is just fun, and this is gonna be a historical, yes.
This is, I'm trying to see if I can make this bigger. Floating player. Nope.
Change full screen on your computer, and
Another day.
if you change full screen on your computer and go to half screen, it'll make the video look bigger for us.
Do
But
what?
go ahead, just play.
The life law. There's a lot I've got to do today, so let's get started. All right, doing a quick rating of my daily driver. The horsepower is decent. It's sitting at right about 1. But the suspension could use some work.
Today's rations are bussin', just some locally sourced organic berries foraged from the woods. 3 out of 10. Pretty mid.
Just finished filming an unboxing video with this new 6-pounder from France. They sent it for free. Something about a sponsorship?
Just checking the mailbag. Looks like another fan letter. Look, guys, I really appreciate the support, but this could have been an email.
Quick fit check before we cross the Delaware. I thrifted this fire vintage fit from Goodwill, though I low-key think a puffer jacket would have been more practical. Get ready with me to catch this dub. No cap, a well-tied sash is the key to Battlefield Riz.
Yo, the aura is immaculate, General. You're goated.
Well, that is all for today. Thanks for coming along with me. Remember to like and follow for more 1776 content. See ya.
I mean, some of these are so well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're like yeah, they're well done. And there's many of these. The stormtrooper ones are hysterical. With I think what the guy was, the other stormtrooper's name, Greg. He's like, so Greg has strapped himself to a rocket. I don't think it's gonna go well. Whatever. Talk about Vader being mad at him and sending him to Endor, and like, there's like, it's like a 16-part series. They're really really well done. Whoever's making these, but as Carl pointed out last night, they are super resource intensive. So when you look at that, which was what, about 8 or 9 different video clips, assuming none of those hit on the first time and they had to be regenerated, there's a significant cost, wouldn't you say, to doing something just like that video on the
Yeah, each of those shots is probably going to cost, on the low side, 2,000 credits a shot. So, and then each shot, 16,000 credits. You only get 12,000 for Ultra
per when?
per month.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, admittedly, some probably came out a lot better because you're able to generate one and use it as a basis, or frames from it as a basis for the next one. So there's probably some discount there or whatnot. But yeah, I'm sure each of those videos blows through, at least half of the credits that you get with Ultra. And that's the only way you can access it. So
This is I'm not going to read the third comment because it gets too on the political side, but I don't know if you guys saw the comments on the side. The first one says, "This is real because AI wasn't around back then," which is a great comment. And then the second one says, "I'm definitely getting scammed when I get older." Yeah, I don't know about both. I mean, look, I don't think any of us ready to even George Washington, but just replace this with any current figure, and you can see how quickly now little things, right? Like he was eating
Yeah,
and
so
still talking, right? I mean, it's not that good.
if the news story you're watching has somebody, speaking while they're coughing and not you don't hear the cough, like, you might be
It's gonna be
watching an
like
AI.
it's gonna be like sideline at the football games where the coach covers their mouth with I don't have a piece of paper. Coach covers their mouth with a piece of paper and they talk like this. Like that's gonna be everybody's AI, like foolproof or whatever. They're gonna be doing news stories and somebody's gonna go like this. So you can tell whether like the voice moved or whatever the case was or whatever. Like, look, I mean, sort of a side move here, but people are going to figure out like little hacks to figure out how you can tell if something is AI created. Of course, that will only last as long as AI can't solve for that. Then AI will solve for that. And it's just going to be this whack-a-mole issue where people are like, I found a solution. Nope, that solution doesn't work. And it'll be no different than people who get paid to do, hacking events and stuff like that. Like white, what do they call it? White label? No, not white label. White hat, blue hat. What's it called? What am I thinking?
hacking events.
When it's a positive hacking event, what's it called?
That's a white hat.
White hat. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like a white hat event on it.
And I want to highlight Delma and also just in time information. You watch the show because we're amazing, but so is our chat. Delma is saying that they can't invoke a custom GPT either. And the response has been it hasn't been officially removed. What you're seeing is likely a temporary glitch. So
Mm, gotcha. But it works.
I
It's a temporary glitch. Well, I guess you should just upgrade to Teams then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that seems like a weird thing that they would have. We're going back to the ChatGPT thing and being able to invoke other ChatGPT. It seems like an odd feature to remove. So let's hope it just is a temporary thing because, like, why would you take that away? It's actually one of the cooler, lesser known features. I can't tell you how many times I have to tell people that exists, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm like, "Yeah, it's been there since day one. People just didn't know it was a thing." You know?
But also brought to you by the company who lets you do amazing things with custom GPTs, but then doesn't let you include them in a project folder. Like, well,
You know what?
you don't.
When I
Did that get fixed too?
There's an upgrade to projects as well.
There is.
How it
I
has
saw this
reading.
morning.
Yeah. Um,
All right.
was yeah.
I don't have it telling me on my screen at the moment, so I would have to go look for it. But it did say new updates to projects when I logged into the team. Let me see if I go. Come on, guys. You know, I already have like I usually have 6 different. Hold on. I'm just refreshing a page to see if it pops up so I can.
Oh yeah. No problem. Yeah, because I'm having a hard time. I read through it. I was like, oh hey, that's interesting, and then moving on because I was reading the release notes for other things that had come out. I was reviewing memory and things like it's like, oh, that's cool. Projects. Maybe I'll try that out again. So we'll see what happens.
Nice.
I'm gonna try to find it super quick from you because this is like 20 hours ago. Tom, thank you, Tom's guide. Tom says, just rolled an update to ChatGPT Projects feature, adding tools designed to support more structured long-term work like research, writing, and planning. Announced today on X, projects now offer a more organized way to group related chats, files, and instructions, functioning more like a focused workspaces than a standalone conversations. Hello, Perplexity Labs. With this latest additions, the features take a step closer to becoming more like a comprehensive productivity tool. Okay, so there you go. That's what it originally launched as a way for a group to rate chat projects are designed to support ongoing efforts with memory, context, and custom instructions. Yeah, I use come every weekend. I use projects very very heavily to help me organize and start the different sections of the newsletter. I also use it every single day for the show when I do the editing to put out the edited version of the live show as well as with the conundrum episodes, which I was just doing early this morning. So I'm all for updates to projects, but also if this update doesn't mean that I could pull in custom GPTs in the projects, what are we even talking about? What are we doing?
Mm.
Like, what are we doing?
That's the key feature.
Yeah.
That needs to be added.
What are we doing? I just projects are great, but I need to have 5 or 6 custom GPTs that I can pull into those projects because that makes logical sense.
So also Canvas, I'm now looking for updates. They updated Canvas so that it supports downloads. If you're writing a doc and you're in Canvas, you can now download from within the Canvas. It will be a PDF, a docx, or Markdown. They literally just went and said, "What is Perplexity giving you?" And we will too. And if you're using Canvas to write code, it will export directly to the right file type. So .py if you've been writing a Python script, .js, .sql, etc.
Oh, okay. Here, yeah. Deep research and voice mode support. That was the thing that caught me.
For
And
project?
for projects and sharing chats from projects.
Oh yeah.
Those,
Wow.
those are all great. Like if we don't, but if we had a DOS team instance for a ChatGPT, totally makes sense. We're kind of
Yeah.
a small company here. We are a company actually, technically. You know, our LLC, it totally makes sense if we all had a team account that we would share documents back and forth. I set up ChatGPT Teams accounts for clients. So I can see the value there. One thing we haven't, well, you guys talked about, I think the other day, I just missed it, was the updates in general to connectors and things like that inside of it. And so inside of ChatGPT. And so really what I think we're thinking about, just to give an inside baseball look at like how Scaled sees this, Scale Consulting, not Scale AI, that got bought up by Meta. But the asterisk on that is, you know, we sort of like, I don't know, we're like unofficially an implementation partner because we set up Teams instances, but up until this point, because the connectors have not, like the actions that you could build to a custom GPT weren't super great. So we just didn't. It wouldn't be worth it for the client. They would have ended up being way more upset with us than trying to do it or shoehorn it in. But these connectors are changing things now. And I've been using the connector connected directly to Google Drive for a while. I can sit in ChatGPT and I can quite literally ask it about documents that are sitting in certain folders inside of Google Drive. It works great. It's actually awesome. Well, that's only going to expand. Now they have Box and others that I haven't heard of before, but then also SharePoint. And you can see this in Dropbox and other areas, right? And so that's only going to expand. And then it's going to obviously connect to things like CRMs or other productivity tools like Asana or Monday or things like that. And so really we have to be thinking ahead and we have to be a step ahead of this and go, okay, is it important to set up now for our clients? No, but do we need to be 3 months ahead of this and already be thinking about the types of solutions our clients are going to be asking for when they come to us and say, yes, set us up a Teams instance, put the seats in there, put the invites out there. A lot of times there's training involved in that as well. But also, hey, we see that now we can connect to our CRM. How do we just ask questions through the GPT to get our CRM information back for things like, lead, contacts, those kind of things, or where a deal is currently inside of Salesforce, which would be great. If you could just do deep analysis at any time you wanted with a snap of a finger and say, why are 3 of my deals stalled? Or check, my opportunities for anything more than 30 days, depending on your sales cycle. And why are they stalled? Let's do a deep analysis of it. You also, by the way, have access to my emails and my calendar. So, hey, ChatGPT, just go ahead and look at those emails, look at my calendar, look for my call transcripts that came in through Google Gemini when I did my Google call, then cross-reference that with the cycle on the opportunities and give me a holistic view of why I can't push these 3 particular deals. Why are they stalled? Right now, you would copy and paste in an email transcript or a call transcript. You would copy, and it works, but it's manual. Rep grabs, and all of that is going away. That whole layer of go grab it and put it somewhere is going away. The user is simply just going to say, tell me. And AI will be smart enough through MCP and A2A and all the things we've talked about to just simply go and do. And then obviously, like we said yesterday, that agentic layer down the road is not tell me, it's I show up in the morning and it was done. Because AI recognized it was a problem probably 5 days before I did. And it's already sitting there with the answers to me saying, this is about to be a problem in your opportunities. We've seen ahead of it, gotten ahead of it. And we already have drafted up 2 or 3 emails that are going to shore up this communication because you're starting to strain your communication thing. I could go on and on and on from the sales side, but that's crazy, right? Like that's where we need to be thinking as far as consultants, as far as like, it's not where we are today. It's where are we going to be? And how do I set up myself for consultative work to make sure that I'm not left behind, but also that I can communicate this effectively to people who aren't sitting talking about it like we are, the great folks in our chat and who are watching the show.
And not something Sam's been talking about forever, right? Don't build for the capabilities now. Build for what's coming.
But sure, okay, Sam, sorry. Me, him, it could have been either of us, Beth. It could have been either of us. Maybe here this show, we know we've already established they watch this show at OpenAI. So I mean, whatever. It's fine. I don't need the credit. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm trying to make you feel better or feel supported because I'm linking your statement to yeah. But you are fine. You are totally fine. Okay.
Okay.
I've
You
confirmed
got one? Go for it.
I've confirmed that you still can't move things into projects that you do with a custom GPT. It just doesn't show up for you. So
Oh,
the only chats that I can move into a project are chats that did not involve a custom GPT.
Right.
ooh,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
You were confirming that you cannot pull custom GPTs in the project still.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
Gotcha.
I'm going to make sure I understood.
Okay. All right. Well, this one is for a little bit of news that people have been going back and forth on, and I know both Justin and Greg have talked about it the other day. Um, I want to talk about Apple and their latest papers, and apparently all the hubbub that that was caused or discussed about them. And I agree with Nate Jones' assessment that. That what it seems like is there was the marketing and PR team spin on this, and then there was the actual research studies, right? And so, if you haven't heard already, so Apple came out with a couple of papers that are the headlines and clickbait and flame bait that's been, taking the AI sphere by storm for at least a couple of days, is, "Oh, LLMs are banned. They're limited. You can't do," "there's gonna be a cap," and all this kind of stuff. But if you look at the papers and break down what their actual findings are, and like most research papers, they don't make those kind of conclusions. What they do is, we have a set of tests. These are the results. We think this leads to X, Y, and Z. All right. So, grain of salt, everyone. Um, but essentially, the papers did a specific set of logic tests on certain LLMs, and not the latest ones. They had to do the previous generation because that's when they started the study. Um, about what if the reasoning or thinking that reasoning models do is actual reasoning, actual thinking, and not just pattern matching or pattern recognition. And we know that people do pattern recognition really well, and we know that models are based off of, in some aspects, how humans think, how people think, and how LLMs are predictive models, right? And pattern matching comes as part of that. So what they were trying to illustrate was simply, if you use these logic puzzles and these logic tests, which are very strict tests, right? We were just talking about subjective and objective, kind of results from an LLM in the first place. And uh, so these logic puzzles were used to suss out the breaking point or the limitations of when that accuracy collapse happens, right? And and they found that once you reach a certain high complexity, then you start getting diminishing returns, or it drops off, and things like that, right? That's all they really did. They did not say that LLMs are a terrible like pathway to to develop AI. I think that's what I think that's what the hype cycle wanted to take advantage of. So, I mean, in the larger conversation, this is an example of, hey, we are just trying to we have a hypothesis. Here is our evidence. These are the results we got from our tests. That's a study versus, hey, this study says that LLMs are limited and we shouldn't be wasting billions of dollars on them, or whatever. And I think that narrative has nothing to do with what the studies are for. The second study was a critique of, or a breakdown of, a particular eval or benchmark. And what they felt was, hey, these are word math problems, but it's not robust enough for just equation or symbolic math problems. And that's the only difference. Here's another benchmark we think that would test symbolic math problems or logic, logic problems. Um, so so my takeaway is that here is some great insights on what is possible limitation or possible paths for us to build off of or build around or use other AI. Like we have symbolic AI, we have evolutionary AI, right? Sakana's come up with their evolutionary AI merge. And Jan LeCun talks about having the world models, right? That's a different kind of AI. So, and what we've seen from how we do mixture of experts, chain of thought, um, multiple AIs working in concert, there's not one. It isn't just like LLMs are the one AI and replace everything. We don't need to develop anything else. No, this technology is a mixture, a web of uh, different functions and focuses and training. These are fine tuned to do all kinds of different things. Otherwise, we'd only have one. We'd have our 100 billion or almost trillion parameter models, and you wouldn't need to quantize it. You wouldn't need to have a 3 billion parameter. You wouldn't need to have all that if that was the answer. But I think this also illustrates the gap between what people are understanding about what AI is, right? And what falls under AI, right? We don't hear ML that much anymore, right? Because that's not part of the trend word, right? So that's a component of artificial intelligence. So I think the concept of that there's just this monolithic idea and that there's just this hegemony, homogenized version of AI.
Okay, Andy.
Is
I heard you
is
throwing out big words earlier too, as if Andy is in here. But
well,
keep,
hey,
keep going
hey,
on your
we
point.
all have roles, and I'm just picking up the slack. We can't wait till you get back, Andy. Um, but but I think that's also part of the gap of AI literacy, right? Is we need better understanding of how this approaches. It's not one thing. It's so many different things. And these papers specifically are just highlighting highlighting other things that we need to work on now or give us inspiration on other things to examine, right? And a lot of people have been, talking about it's like, oh, these were only specific hard logic puzzles. All right. So that test has been done. Now let's do the other ones, right? Let's use the puzzles or evals or tests that aren't that side. What are the returns or what are the expected results on that side and see how they communicate with each other and how they correlate and stuff like that. So suffice it to say, I think we just have to be careful to, you have to separate the wheat from the chaff. So, so do, don't take any title, take any headline with a grain of salt, and look at the actual source material. Because when I went through the papers and did a breakdown and everything like that, it just seemed like here's some here's some tests we did, here's some information we got, good information. All right, let's go and do the next study.
What's funny about that is I normally I would dig into those papers. I kind of like nerding out on them. But truthfully, the only thing I saw Jimmy on that was Ethan Malik saying basically you said, which is all that hype that people are talking about, that's not what the report said. That's not what the paper said. And he kind of like in 3 sentences was like, blah, 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 blah. I was like, good enough for me. I mean, you get to people that you trust, like an Ethan Malik, whoever, who consistently has put out quality content on LinkedIn and other places through his blog. And
Or
then
or Brian me. I mean, sure, Ethan Malik. I mean, if you want to tie myself to Ethan Malik, that's fine.
yeah, I would
You get
happily.
Sam, I get Ethan. How's that sound? Good. All right, Beth. Who do you
Listen,
who do you want to be?
I think Sam is listening to all of those. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. I think Sam's listening to the entire show. And he says some things in his conversations, with his groggly voice. And he he says like, um I think this is what we're going to see. And I'm like, that sounds a lot like one of the shows we just did or whatever. So I'm not pointing fingers. I would listen to the Daily AI show too to get my most updated AI news. In fact, it's a great reminder for everybody that we do this 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. This is episode 485, which Jimmy said at the top of the show. 500, as Beth reminded us last night in our meeting, our weekly meeting is actually July 4th this year. So we'll be celebrating our Fit 500th show. So yeah, listen, like, subscribe, do all the things because we love making this show. And of course, we'd love to see it to get out to even more people, although we love our community in the chat, but we'd love to see more people join the community and have just as much fun with you guys live. So if you are around 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, you can always join the chat on YouTube and join all these fine folks that are on the side of our screen that you can't see, but they're amazing and we love them. And they're a huge part of this show for us because we read all the comments and we bring it in when we can into the conversation. So just wanted to throw that out there, Jimmy, before we got too far to the wrap up of the week is that people should, the takeaway here is what I'm trying to say is we know OpenAI listens to the show and probably Google and the others too. And other people should listen to our show too, because I would imagine, talk more about AI than most other people in the world 5 days a week. I'm willing to put us out there and say 5 hours a week minimum. You guys have the Sci-Fi AI show today. We have the Conundrum show tomorrow. The newsletter is on Sunday. I mean, we're up there. What about the
You heard it. You heard it first from Brian. The gauntlet has been thrown. Come at us, bros.
Come at us. Go on, Cliff. Hey, what do we have coming up, Jimmy, with the Sci-Fi show in coding and vibe coding today?
Sorry, what? What was it?
What? I pivoted. What do we have coming up today in terms of the Sci-Fi AI show and the vibe coding? Aren't both of those happening today?
Yes, we do. Vibe coding. Carl's going to lead us to the next step of our vibe coding series. The first one we covered just designing the app that we wanted, right? Having that conversation with ChatGPT to touch all the bases, the kind of things that you need to think about before you even get started, right? This is the pre-production part of things. This is where you want to create your PRD. And that's kind of essentially what we did. So for the sci-fi AI show, Beth, what do we got coming up?
Oh, we got a show on replicators. And what does replication teach us? What are the foundations for that, both scientifically but also in terms of culture? So, replication is a big topic, and we're gonna do our best with it for this level of the conversation. Thanks.
Gotcha. Okay. Do either of you have another thing we want to cover? Or are we good to wrap for today?
Good job.
Google Labs is helping. We'll talk about it on the new show next week. Google Labs is helping with predicting hurricane paths, and that is super awesome for somebody who lives in Tampa and deals with more and more hurricanes. So we'll talk about it more in the news show. But I wanted to just throw it out there because I'm personally excited about it. So more to come on that. That's it.
That's super awesome. Okay. So I want to thank all of our chat viewers, subscribers, and to continue this discussion, even though we're wrapping up for today and you'll see us in a couple hours or in an hour or two for the vibe coding, please continue the conversation in our Slack community. Just head over to dailyaishowcommunity.com to sign up. And also, like I'm saying, we got vibe coding coming up and we got the Sci-Fi AI show coming up. And that'll be it for our shows this week. Conundrum on Saturday and newsletter on Sunday. And then we will be back on Monday with another interesting topic. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you later. Aloha.